2 of the Fantaisie en Echo by Marais and adjusted by Villeneuve. It occurred to me when I was multi-tracking this that if I was playing part 2, all of the things that I said about ornamentation in the last lesson were quite difficult to absorb because I was listening to where I was when I was playing, and also because this is so highly ornamented, we really need to make sure that what we're doing with a bow is the best thing for the ornamentation. And there's nothing like having a complicated ornament where your fingers in the left hand are going 10 to the dozen, and your bow then responds to the speed of your fingers. So although you don't mean to, your bow speeds up because your left hand is doing something fast as well. So what I want to do in this part of the lesson is to do this without ornaments and really think about what we're doing with the bow. I know we touched a little bit on that in the last lesson, but it does change things, and I think once you've done it without ornaments you get a better sense of where you need to put the ornaments, especially where you have appoggiaturas and coulées and understanding the phrasing of it. So let's go from the beginning. I've just played this through a few times and it's quite tricky to do it without ornaments when you've done it with. But let's have a go. And okay, I'll count you in. Ready? And 1, 2, 3. So still do the fingering that you would do, like for that plant. Keep the 4th finger down, but just don't move it. So the hard thing here is this string cross, isn't it? From this G in bar 3 to the octave G. And what we want to do is try and leave this ringing. So let's do this on adjacent strings first of all. Let's leave the string ringing and land on the next string. And then on the D string. And then on the top string. So I'm making sure that I've got enough pressure with my 2nd finger here on the hair, so I can skirt around the string, hopefully relatively quietly because I've got pressure on. And of course where are we on the bow? So we're a little bit further down, which makes the string cross easier, doesn't it? If you're up here for a string cross, you've got to move your arm further than if you're here. Okay. So let's go back to the beginning and see if we can do that and carry on this time. So the first note, nice ringing sound. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. So whilst you're thinking about not doing ornaments, let's have a look at 13. So in part 1 of this lesson I suggested that you kept your 3rd finger down and stretch across. So let's go back to 9 and just think about what's happening with the bow here. So 1, 2, 3. Try again. Here we go. 2, 3. getting that chord, that D major chord in bar 14 and then going up to the A, we're not doing it up to speed yet, is tricky. Let's try that. 1, 2, 3. Again. 2, 3. So by the time we get to 19, with the 2 tires that we've had in 18, we're right back at the tip, aren't we? And that last note, that D, needs to be weak. It's not, oh my gosh, that's an open string, I can relax here. It's a nice, a delicately placed note. Oh, that wasn't delicate. Okay, let's go on. So at the tip here for the next bit. So we're right down here when we finish that D. And then I was moving back. It's because I've only got a crotchet here. And that's given me a chance to start this chord at the tip. So bar 25 then. 2, 3. So if you don't move back, you get really stuck, don't you? So moving back in bar 25 is really important. And doing this without that ornament on the A makes this chord much easier. And I found it was easier once I'd got that D and the G firmly down, that I could then do the ornament with the A, that appoggiatura. But it's really tricky, isn't it? And I find I had to adjust the height to a certain extent of my instrument, so it wasn't too low, and I just had to make sure that I was comfortable doing this. So let's do bar 26 then, without the ornament. So we've moved back to the tip. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. So all of that until we get to the 2 tires in 29 is pretty much further down the bow, isn't it? There isn't much of an opportunity to get back. And then when we have the tires and the scale, we can... So similar things happening here in 31. And then you're moving back, but not so far back, not to the tip, but in 32, you want to be sort of a little way down. Because we've got that top B on a tire, haven't we? And then we've got another tire, another pull bow. So I found this run from 32 really hard to do without ornaments. It really made me think about where I was putting the ornaments, where the coulées were coming and where the appoggiaturas were coming. So what I'm doing here is that's fairly straightforward. So that next, the CDE is 2, 3, 4, and then the E is 1, 2, 3 on the D string, and then open, open 1, 2 for the next bit. And once I'd separated that out, it made so much more sense, the phrasing. So starting at the middle, and the whole idea between starting at about here is that if you start here, then the note before the first tire is going to be enormous because you're going to go right down there to get enough bow. So we sort of hover around here, we're not going to have an enormous note, the note before the tire. Okay, bar 38. Oh, actually no, bar 37. So the last beat of 37 is tiny, almost inaudible. Then 38, back to the tip. Now with these quick notes, the closer to the tip you go, the easier they are. The harder they are, the further the bow down you go, the further that you go down the bow. So make a point. I know we're doing flat-a-mort here, we've got a lot to think about in the left hand. But if you save your bow by applying a bit of pressure here, and don't whiz down the bow because this is going fast. So these fast notes are slightly easier. So just be aware of where you're placing your semiquavers and how hard they are when you play them further down the bow. So let's do bar 38. Here we go. 2, 3, 1. Now here, in 38, 39, 40, 41, it's the end of a phrase and it's not too important. So what I was doing here was moving the bow on the rest onto the top string with my finger on the A in readiness for that phrase. So I'm not doing taking it off and putting it back on again, I'm rocking it around. And I'm rocking it around before I need the note. So by the time we get to 47, and actually I forgot to do those in a gal. It's quite hard doing this without ornaments and thinking about the style, but I would be doing those in a gal. So 47, we're all the way down here because we've got this nice long note with vibrato, which I'm not doing. And then I'm taking my bow off and I'm whizzing back to the tip. Otherwise, if I'm not, I'm going. So I really want to start my 45, 46, 47, 48. I want to start that at the tip. Okay, so we're 48 at the tip. Fourth finger here, two tires. And that A at the end of that bar, bar 50, is weak, isn't it? And because we've had a slur, we're not really in the right place for the next two tires. So what I'm doing here is taking the bow off just slightly, because I don't want to run out of bow after that A with the tire. What I found hard with 50, at the end of 50, was that when I took the bow off for the A, sometimes I skimmed or touched the next note before I needed it. So it took a lot of practice to place that and place it at, well, fairly down the bow. And of course I've got my third finger on the bow supporting the hair. At the tip here. Sorry. So lots of things to think about there, and I think if you have a go at the bowing and try to get rid of the ornaments, it helps to place the ornaments in the right place if you've got a really good structure, and it's working on the right hand, because there's a lot of left hand in this, isn't there? And there's hardly any time to think. And I think being only one bar apart from the top part, if you're playing the second part, and the whole idea with this piece is that you're if you're playing the second part, you're listening to the first part to understand the style and how to play it. But what I found when I was playing this was that I wasn't really listening to that at all. I was just thinking about the left hand and the ornaments and where I was on the bow. So I'm sure, you know, when you know it a bit more, the listening thing will happen. But I think separating out the two skills with the ornamentation with the left hand and the bowing with the right hand is a good thing to do. Anyway, I hope you enjoy playing it.